Many of the games we play and talk about today are new releases. After all, that's the hot stuff. But there are many games still alive that have been around for a long time. How are these 10, 20, or even 30-year-old games still relevant today? Let's check up on them. Counter-Strike, League of Legends, or even Super Smash Bros. Melee are by modern standards old games. They have been around for decades, and yet they are still doing just as well today as they were years ago. How are they doing that? By the examples I have given, you might say that the game needs to be competitive and have a dedicated community, which is partially right. But this does apply a bit more broadly than this definition would suggest. What about a game like Portal 2? It's still a relatively popular game right now, and while it definitely got a push from the speedrunning community, Portal is a very unique game with one of the best stories in gaming, which has helped the single-player part of the game to stay on top as well. But of course, story classics like Portal, almost every GTA entry, or BioShock will remain in the public consciousness. But how do competitive games do it? How do you keep that dedicated fan base? Looking at the most successful games, the answer seems to be community content with developer support. Things like community servers, events, community-made content, occasional new game modes being added, etc. make even the oldest of games feel fresh, yet familiar and nostalgic. If you need an example of how to handle community content, Team Fortress 2 is, in my opinion, the best way to do it. Even with the cheater and bot infestation, it remains a very popular game to this day. Community can keep a game alive. The developers can't. Of course, developer support is a much needed factor in keeping a game relevant for years, but it is not a necessity per se. Just look at the Super Smash Bros. Scene. Nintendo doesn't give a damn, but they are going strong. The power is in our hands to keep the games we love alive. But the developers need to let us. Counter-Strike's community servers, TF2's community content, Overwatch's custom games, and many more, all of these are great examples of community making the game better and more exciting with more variety. You might think that it's the obvious decision to give the community an option of shaping their own experiences. Just by simply looking at it, it's easy to see the benefits. Community makes the content for free, making it much easier for the developers to focus on something else. So why not do it? Well, you do need to at least somewhat regulate the content community makes, which is not what the Riot seems too fond of. For that reason, a game like Valorant is a very dry game. There are some game modes which were a very nice change of pace when they came out, but let's be honest, they are pretty boring, maybe apart from like Team Deathmatch. So your only real option you're left with is to play ranked. That's also how and why Valorant ended up being the place where degenerate content thrives the most. So, what is the conclusion? Video games manage to stay relevant through a combination of nostalgia, timeless gameplay mechanics, cultural impact, ongoing developer support, and the active engagement of its community. And that is exactly why modern games like Valorant need to take a look in the mirror and think about its approach. With no replay system, community content or servers, Valorant and similar games are doomed to fail eventually.